Looks like we have most of us here, and we at least have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order.
Shall I take the roll?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Please state your names for the records. Members from the City of Colton present?
Frank Navarro.
Thank you. Members from the City of Loma Linda?
Phil Duper.
John Lenart.
Thank you. Member from the County of San Bernardino's 2nd District?
Jesse Armendariz.
Thank you. And member from the County of San Bernardino 5th District?
Baca present.
Thank you. And members from the City of San Bernardino?
Helen Tran.
Juan Figueroa.
And Fred Charette.
Thank you. We have a full quorum.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'll open up public comment on our closed session item. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on closed session?
I have no requests to speak in front of me, nor do I see any forthcoming.
Thank you very much, and we will now adjourn to our closed session. Okay, we're back from closed session. Mr. Lewin, do you have anything to report?
We have no reportable action, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our open session, and we'll do our call to order with our Pledge of Allegiance. Mayor Tran, would you please lead us?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Please rise and put your hand over your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burrows, do we have anything to be added or deleted?
No item, sir.
Thank you. We'll deal with conflicts of interest if they arise. And moving into G, informational items.
So I have just one. We had to put this in the weekly update to y'all. Recently, Ms. Kim Benson, our UAS administrator, proudly executed a new international memorandum of agreement, this time with South Korea. So this was in participation with the County of San Bernardino's trade mission to both South Korea and Japan. And we are now partnered with the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, which functions very similarly to our FAA safety division. Pretty amazing technology coming out of there for things like drone detection and protective measures for drone overflight in areas where it's not permitted. So we're going to be sharing information with our partners and hoping for some new programs coming out of this. So that's the update there, and that concludes our reports.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. We'll move on to the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second. I have a motion by Supervisor Baca and a second by Mayor Navarro.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Baca and a second by Member Navarro. Excuse me. Members, please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro.
Yes.
Member Echevarria.
Yes.
Member Duper.
Yes.
Member Leonard.
Yes.
Member Baca.
Baca, aye.
Member Armendariz.
Armendariz, aye.
Member Tran.
Yes.
Member Figueroa.
Yes.
And Member Charette.
Yes.
Thank you. That item is passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. On to board action items. Number 9, Mr. Kuzna.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you, we have 5 proposed budget adjustments across the general UAS center at SBD and property management funds. It is a net budget adjustment, budgetary expenditures in excess of revenues of $81,500. There is a $55,000 interfund transfer between the general fund and the UAS center at SBD to provide additional working capital as the revenues that are coming in are running behind our expenses. UAS center is one of our enterprise funds. The other budget adjustment in the general fund is for account 50925, professional services. This is for our comprehensive economic development strategy report or plan. It's a 5-year plan, and it is required by our federal partners to continue to receive those funds. And then we have Property Management Fund, account 50451, repairs and maintenance, an increase of $25,000 to fund what are some drain repairs on the roof of DFAS 1, which we hope will be at least partially covered under the roof warranty. And the final adjustment is for the UAS Center at SBD to acquire some equipment and furnishings for our training site out at Perimeter Road. We're anticipating receiving our actual electrical power in the next couple of months, so we're getting that set up to actually be able to do training in that facility, which will reduce our outlays for renting classroom sites. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ferris, do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comments. One moment. There's someone approaching. Oh. No public comments on this item.
Thank you very much. Moving to the board, any comments or questions?
Move approval.
We have a motion from Supervisor Baca
Second.
and a second from Mayor Tran.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Member Baca and a second by Member Tran. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro.
Yes.
Member Chavarria.
Yes.
Member Duper.
Yes.
Member Leonard.
Yes.
Member Baca.
Baca, aye.
Member Armendariz.
Armendariz, aye.
Member Tran.
Yes.
Member Figueroa.
Yes.
And Member Charette.
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, Mr. Lewin.
Okay, good afternoon. So, as you may recall, your member jurisdictions adopted an amendment to our joint powers agreement, Amendment Number 2, which had the effect of changing our officers' positions from being two co-chairs, a vice chair, to having a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. Our board policy had all of those older titles in there on it, and so had to be revised to conform with the new amendments to the JPA agreement and those officer positions. So it's really a technical change here. You will see a handout that's sitting up there on there, which shows a couple changes that have been revised from what was posted. I will go over those for you. So the changes were simply this. One on page 2, where it just confirmed that the election date for officers are now odd-numbered first meeting in a regular odd-numbered calendar year, in other words, January typically. That was another change that was made by the amendment. The other changes are really correcting things. Prior to the election of a secretary by the board, the secretary position was basically fulfilled by our clerk of the board, Jennifer back here on it. And so yesterday when I was looking through this, preparing for a meeting, I recognized that there were places in this policy that had the secretary doing things which I think would be better left to our clerk of the board, as she's always done it, rather than transferring it to our secretary, Supervisor Baca.
I yield to Jennifer.
And so those changes are on page 8, and it is, so our clerk of the board will actually carry the minutes and keep agendas and things like that. And then over on page 10, once again, our clerk of the board, rather than Supervisor Baca, will be preparing our agendas and sending out notices. We felt that would probably be the best approach to follow in this particular case. So those are the only changes. As I say, it was a really technical amendment just to conform with our JPA amendment. There is no other changes to board policies.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Ferris, were there any public comments on this?
And no public comments on this item.
Thank you. To the board?
Second.
Second, and I congratulate Jennifer.
Thank you.
Did you catch that? It was
A motion by Member Baca and a second by,
And I wanted the supervisor to go to CMC school.
I think
Then
Mr.
was-
Charette made it first.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor seconded it.
Thank you. So we,
I wanted to give him the honor of making the motion.
so we have a motion by Member Charette and a second by Member Baca. Thank you very much. Please state your votes for the record. Member Navarro.
Yes.
Member Echevarria.
Yes.
Member Duper.
Yes.
Member Leonard.
Yes.
Member Baca.
Baca, aye.
Member Armendariz.
Armendariz, aye.
Member Tran.
Yes.
Member Figueroa.
Yes.
And Member Charette.
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 11, Mr. Burrows.
Okay, so for many of you, the concept of bringing rail service back to the former base has been something that it's been explored off and on by the IVDA for many years since the base closed. For those that recall, Norton Air Force Base had fairly substantial rail access from a freight rail perspective for many, many years. That, of course, is no longer the case, particularly with the advancements and investments over at the BNSF intermodal facility just a couple miles down the road. But with the completion and now operation of SBCTA and Metrolink's new Aero service, we thought it would be prudent to dust off the potential of commuter rail service and whether that is feasible. So we were fortunate to be able to retain the good folks at Rail Pros who, of course, worked year over year on the Aero project to see what they thought about that option. And so we've got Nathan and Doug here today from Rail Pros to present where they left off in preparing a potential concept to provide rail access to these facilities, the business park and the airport. So without further ado, this is Nathan.
Thank you. Great intro there. So we're fortunate enough to work with SBCT on delivering the recent service Aero.
We have a very technical issue with your microphone. There we go.
There we go. All right, that's better. All right, so thanks, Mike. And you can go to the next slide, if you'd like, Jennifer. So this is a brief overview of the Aero service that has recently been put in to service. It's working great, which we're very happy about after spending about 12 years getting it there with SBCTA. I'm sure most of us are familiar with it, but it did involve many of the same infrastructure items and approach items that are going to be similar to the concept we'll discuss here today. Many stations, early utility projects, at-grade crossings, safety is always paramount, and also procurement of the vehicles, which will be very similar to what's needed to run this extension of the service. Another item to note is the compatibility of these services with future zero-emission vehicles. SBCTA and many locals are passionate about delivering that, and the vehicle shown here at the bottom is compatible with interchangeable power packs that do facilitate hydrogen or other fuel types that will be future acceptable. Go next, Jennifer. So I touched on some of the major elements that we found were critical to a well-planned and a well-executed rail service. Early utility relocations, common with many transit and infrastructure projects. Getting those out of the way as early as possible only facilitates a successful schedule and delivery. At-grade crossing improvements for any rail-related project, safety is paramount, and the interaction with the public and the roadways is something we'd want to approach and confirm stakeholder consensus on as early as possible. We would have a couple of rail bridges in the concept. There's drainage channels and drainage ways between the existing Aero service, which you'll see in a second. We pick up just about 1,600 feet east of the transit center and bring it in as straight line as we can across to the airport in the most efficient manner possible. And then we will have a passenger station at the terminus here near the terminal to allow passengers to come to and from the airport. So next slide. Purpose and need, as I think we all know, we have a newly established passenger service here at San Bernardino, currently running a few routes, San Francisco, Vegas, Utah, and Connecticut, but with a great potential to increase that by 2.5 times with the existing infrastructure in place. So not only will the new service carry passengers, but it also has the potential to carry the local workforce of local industry and the airport located industries. Next slide. Oh, I think we want Yeah, here we go. So this is an overview, very conceptual level, but we're looking at 2.5 miles of track, 2.5 mile route. As I said on the upper left there, picking up just 1,600 feet east of the transit center, right before the Aero service turns south and heads down towards the freeway. In this base concept, we have attempted to make it the most efficient straight line route that we could. There is many items to discuss and many details to work through, but as a base unit, this is all at grade crossings, single track rail bridges, and single track the whole way. So, next slide. Here we'll run through a few of the key elements that we've developed. There'll only be 2 rail turnouts on the system, one where we come off of the Aero service near the transit center, and then another one near the passenger platform here at the airport to allow for a center platform with 2 station tracks, one on each side. That'll also allow multiple vehicles to pass if they would, and with the short run of this, I was just talking with one of my operations managers, and she thinks we could run about a 15-minute schedule. So just with one vehicle, so it's pretty efficient, pretty doable. And if we did need a passing siding somewhere in here, it would also be fairly short, being the passenger-only DMU vehicle. So it would not be a significant increase. Next slide. Here are the 2 rail bridges we've identified in this base configuration, one at Warm Creek and one at the existing drainage channel about halfway through the alignment. Standard rail bridges, roughly 120 feet long in concept, and no extenuating circumstances or special cases have been identified. Next slide. In this at-grade configuration, there will be 5 at-grade crossings at these roadways that are listed here. As with any roadway crossings, I've repeated again, safety is paramount. So it'll be a large effort at the beginning to have safety configurations and approvals gained by all stakeholders and the CPUC to implement these and actually construct them. That will be a lengthy discussion. Just to put it bluntly, new at-grade crossings are always a great item of discussion with the CPUC, and they will most likely ask for alternatives and other justification, but that is something we're well versed in and have worked through. Next slide. And we come to the passenger terminal, the platform. Right now we have a base center platform configuration, a track on each side. As I said, that allows for multiple trains or the option of it, or storing a car. At the top of that picture, we have the walkway passenger to the terminal, again in the base configuration, all considered at grade, but there are grade separations, tunnels, aerials, all optional as we develop through the concepts. And to bring that all together, we prepared a short video that brings this all together and gives us an idea of what this looks like in real space. So if we could play that. So the track on the left is all rendered in there for what it might look like in the future. And here we peel off of the existing Aero service and start our own configuration, our own alignment. Warm Creek, standard rail bridge. Little jog in the alignment to align with the roadway and be least disruptive to the existing industries there. And as we cross Tippecanoe, we transfer over to the Parkway to, again, try to be least impactful, and while still providing a corridor for the single rail. And get to the station platform and the walkway.
So obviously, this is just a conceptual look. If it pleases the board, we could potentially pursue additional discussions with SBCTA on future options. That typically entails a cooperative agreement for those on SBCTA. You see those from time to time. But we really just want to present the status of this and garner any feedback and direction. So, and any other thing to add, Nathan?
No, just in our opinion, it's feasible. As I said, there's there's always details to work through, but through our experience working with the RP, Redlands Rail, Arrow Service, we've used the same approach, the same design parameters. It definitely looks feasible for an extension of that service.
And where this is embedded in is the IVDA business plan reference investigating potential commuter rail service. It just did not seem appropriate to have firms, do an analysis while the Arrow was being completed. So the timing on this is where it's at because of obviously the team being slightly engaged in completing Arrow and getting it up and running. So, but happy to answer questions, Nathan or myself.
Yes, Mayor Tran.
Thank you for the presentation, and I like the connectedness of rail into airport and convenience. But one thing that comes to mind is safety is huge, right? So when I was following that rail or the tracks, was there a school to the left side?
Yeah.
There's two of them, right? So
There
that's
is.
one thing that, just be mindful how we really engage the community to ensure safety is number one. And then does it pass through any residential area? That's something to.
Yeah, it does. And we really couldn't, in the base configuration of at grade, there really wasn't a connection from the Arrow service to the airport that avoided all residential. So that is an item we'll have to look at, and there will be more alternatives that'll be studied. But yeah, that is a concern.
And if it could be thought out as far as, could we have the roads go over the rail so that way it creates more of a safety peace of mind that, we're not going across the track, we're going over it. So that's just something I think about, just thinking safety, just when you hear about rail and, derailment and so forth. So
Yeah.
that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and all of those items will be discussed. Grade separations are always
Appreciate
an
that.
item of discussion with the CPUC and other grade
Thank you.
crossing.
Mr. Figueroa?
Thank you. I'm certainly supportive of, having the connectivity between the station, the rail, the airport. Certainly something that I'm supportive of. I would also explore alternative routes because just as Mayor Tran pointed out to, and one of the things that I wanted to point to as well is that there are two elementary schools that will be, I anticipate that I know that this is preliminary conversations, but an anticipated red flag area or pushback area will be those two elementary schools that it would cut directly right through the both of them. And so, again, not to stop progress from happening, because I do support the rail connection, but I would also explore alternative routes, because I'm telling you right now, those parents are going to be very angry, especially considering that it's two elementary schools that the rail is proposed to cut through. So that's just something that I'm just bringing up now, because I know it will be an issue down the road as well.
All right, understood. Yeah.
No other comments? Yes, Mayor Navarro.
Yeah, thank you. It's really good to hear this presentation, good presentation, Nathan. And this is something that I've discussed from the Sabia side of the house with Mr. Burrows and Mr. Gibbs about creating that connectivity between the transit center and the airport. Again, providing more options to the traveling community, business community, entertainment community, for them to access the airport to get to their destination and return home and have a convenient and safe method of transportation that goes through the city. And I understand the concerns of both the mayor and Councilmember Figueroa about the schools. My other question would be that we're going to have to take a real hard look, Mike and Nathan, at the rail crossing that they're on Tippecanoe. That's a 280-foot grade separation. So I think we'll have to take a real serious look at that. Okay? Thank you. Supervisor.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Duper. No, I concur with my colleagues on, clearly the safety, what it means to the San Bernardino community or this whole region. I guess my question, at some point in time, will there be action to be taken or recommendation from this board? Because right now it's all conceptual. Are we going to have a conversation? You're looking for direction today? Or you're just saying, look, this is preliminary, this is what it could look like? I'm just waiting to see if there will be a recommendation to come. Let's pursue this. Let's begin those conversations, look for funding, the partnership with SBCTA. I just want to know, where do we go from here?
And this is, to your point, just an informational status update on, where things are. Really, what we would need to do is work with Rail Pros and SBCTA to talk about next step, what that entails from a potential cost standpoint, because obviously additional alternatives, both above ground, below ground, and alignment all go into this. And as you know, seeing the arrow, multiple agencies are involved in this process. It's a lengthy process, but to be able to get to the potential alternatives, there would be a next phase of this, and we can bring that back for your review and recommendation.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Michael.
Oh, one more, and I would imagine there's a community engagement when that time comes as well. So
Yeah.
when there's more progress, right now it's preliminary, which thank you for the conceptual image or vision of this, and but just as updates as things evolve.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And that will be built into the process, of course.
Just for clarification, this was using existing rail line that was already there, track that was already there, correct? What's the percentage of new track?
Well, this is 100% new.
Okay.
So the rendering looks pretty good, but none of that's there today. It's coming off of the Arrow service that's there today, and as soon as we come off, it's all new track.
Yeah, the former Norton line actually came from the south, which was originally Pacific Electric Railroad, then acquired by UP, and it actually is what is now Mountain View Bridge over the Santa Ana River. So we years back bought that former bridge structure from Union Pacific, but all of the on-base railway and right-of-way was actually removed and quit claim. Particularly in the Stater Brothers footprint, there was substantial rail in that originally. But no more freight rail to the former base.
Okay, seeing no other questions on that, we'll move that along.
Good. And thank you, guys.
All right, Ms. Beltran.
Thank you and good afternoon. So I'm going to be providing you with an overview of the grant initiatives that the IVDA currently has underway. Next slide. So this first project, the 3rd and 5th Street corridor improvements, is a collaboration between the City of Highland, the Seminole Band of Mission Indians, and IVDA. And if you drive through here, you'll notice that this corridor began construction this past December. The project limits are highlighted in yellow, and they include improvements to roadway and infrastructure conditions. One of the highlights of this project is the punch-through that will occur where 3rd Street meets 5th Street. We're now going to have direct access through there to get onto the 210 freeways, and hopefully this will help with traffic congestion. So this partly is being funded by the U.S. Department of Commerce, and there is a short time period left on this grant cycle. So the City of Highland, who is administering the construction phase, is working with the contractor to ramp up forces in order to complete all of the construction activities by July of 2024. And One observation, I'm sorry, we didn't correct the estimated project cost. That has changed to 11.9 million. Next slide. So this project is also being funded by the U.S. Department of Commerce. It's a partnership with the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. It is currently in design, is 65% complete by our local engineering firm, the Hernandez Cronin Associates. These improvements here are mainly intersection improvements, but one of the neat features is that we will have a new bridge that's going to be placed over the City Creek Channel, and this will provide a nicer entryway to the newly expanded fuel farm, as well as other tenants along the Perimeter Road corridor. So the estimated cost for this grant is $3.8 million. Next slide. So the IVDA is in line to receive $3 million from the community project funding that was requested through Congressman Aguilar's office. We are currently preparing supplementary documents with Caltrans, as this is the agency that will provide the oversight and administer the funds. So the engineer, Cordova Corporation, is in final stages of design, and we hope to have a plan checked by the City of San Bernardino late this summer. Next slide. The Southern California Edison, through their Charge Ready program, is providing EV charging ports at no cost to the agency. 2 locations have been identified here at IVDA. One is at the corporate center, located there on Mill Street and Tippecanoe. And this location is anticipated to receive 26 ports. And the other location is our administration building here. In this location, we are expecting 19 ports. So I understand that SCE is finalizing design for staff's review. Next slide. So Mr. Burrows talked a little bit about the UAS Center, and I just want to let you know that we are continuously looking for other grant opportunities to help support the functions of the UAS Center. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? We see no public comment requests on this item either.
No public comments on this item.
All right, moving on to item number 13, Mr. Burrows.
So happy budget season, everybody. I know your respective agencies are, definitely in that process as well, as are we. So Mr. Cousineau and the team are actively working the draft budget for next year. We are on track to be able to present that to you at your June meeting coming up next month. And just wanted to highlight and thank Miriam, on the grant side of the house. As you know, multiple agencies mean multiple timelines, deadlines, but also the ongoing reporting. So we remain in compliance, and just wanted to thank her for doing a great job keeping our grant portfolio up and running and healthy. And we continue to look, particularly in the UAS Center space, because it is so new. And many agencies have offered various grants, but they are 2 very, very new programs. So she continually is investigating which new agency to go after to help supplement the operations there at the UAS Center, which will also stretch our IVDA dollars that much further. But next month we'll have a budget for you to consider, and should be in good shape to have that ready and waiting for you in June. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the open session public comment. I have one request from Tanya Gonzalez.
Sorry, I just get nervous speaking in public, but I'm Tanya. I'm part of the People's Collective for Environmental Justice and the San Bernardino Airport communities. So I know you're probably tired of hearing from us, but we're back for some time now. Most of my work has been talking to community about the Airport Gateway specific plan, right? I've been asking how they're feeling about it, what their concerns are, and a lot of them are concerned about their housing situation. As anyone would, right? So they don't know if this is going to affect them, especially those who live between 3rd and 6th Street, which is where the the project is going to be at. They don't know if they're going to get any financial compensation, especially those who rent. So, I'm just asking you to take into consideration that and include a relocation plan when you're talking about this project. Because you don't know what people are going through. You probably don't know the fear of not knowing what's going to happen to your home, not knowing if you're going to have somewhere to go, not knowing if you can afford the new place where you're going. So I'm just asking for that relocation plan. I know we have talked to you all beforehand, and you said that you have one or you're working on one, but you can't tell us yet. And that's fine. We just want it to be a good plan, and we want to know what it is as soon as possible as well so that people can prepare. And also one last thing before I end, you need to make these meetings more accessible to our community. There's no translation again, right? We try to bring as much community as we can to these meetings because y'all talk about things that are going to be impacting them. So you need to have someone to be translating, and you need to have the agendas to be in other languages. I know you have mentioned that they're online and they're like in different languages online, but a lot of our community doesn't have access to the internet. A lot of them don't know how to use the internet. So you need to make those accessible in person as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, on to board member comment.
Just a comment, maybe Michael, just to her comment, just in regards to having them in Spanish. Could we at least just print out a few and have them in the back, some Spanish versions, just so they can have some?
I'll defer to council on that.
For the agenda?
We can definitely look into doing that. I mean, the concerns is making sure we get an adequate translation and there's not, some impairment in the process where we'll completely inadvertently misleading someone.
Sure.
So perhaps what we can do is maybe look on that and bring that back to the board to have a discussion of it in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Tran?
Mike, could you explain about, wasn't there going to be a form in the Indian high school about the specific plan, or could you go into that so that way we have some information?
Yeah,
to the public?
and we've not scheduled that intentionally because we certainly hear the feedback and the importance of the relocation issue, and we are actively working with the City of Highland on what that looks like so we can make that a meaningful meeting and really garner appropriate input based off of what we can do to address that potential issue.
Do we have an anticipated time frame in the future?
We just met with Highland the other day and on this topic, and we are trying to get to a resolution on that so that we can move forward.
Okay.
But we will certainly notify everyone that's expressed interest in the plan and participated in this process. We appreciate it, and everybody will be notified at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. No other comments? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.